Roughly 2 years ago, Hyundai really shocked the enthusiast market when they introduced the very first ever high-performance Elantra N to the States back in 2022. Now at the time, the Elantra N of course was going against competitors like the old Honda Civic Type R and the Volkswagen Golf and GTI. Now since then, some new competitors have shown up on the marketplace like the redesigned Type R, the new Integra Type S, and the GR Corolla. So as you can see, for 2024, Hyundai is seeing fit to give the Elantra N a slight style refresh. As you can see, this model has an updated front fascia. It has new lighter weight forged wheels, and under the hood we still have the same sonorous sounding 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder making up to 286 horsepower. So as you can see, this week we're actually out here at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca to finally get behind the wheel of the updated Elantra N. And the big question I want answered: has Hyundai made enough changes to this sport compact sedan to keep enthusiasts interested? Stay tuned to find out. Now before we start talking about the updated front fascia for the 2024 Elantra N, I thought I'd pop the hood and remind you guys what's powering this thing. Now the Elantra family offers a choice of several different powertrains, including a hybrid. However, if you're an enthusiast, you're going to ignore all of those and you're going to want to go for this powertrain here, which is a 2-liter turbocharged direct injection 4-cylinder. Now, if you guys are familiar with Hyundai's new in-house performance division known as N, you'll really like this powertrain. It's the company's 2-liter gasoline direct injection turbo 4-cylinder. They call it flat power internally, and it still makes the same power as last year's model, 276 horsepower and 289 pound-feet of torque. Now, if you guys have the dual clutch model, you'll actually have a feature called NGS for N-Grin Shift. It's kind of like an overboost function that allows you to get up to 10 more horsepower for 20 seconds, pushing the output to 286 horsepower. All Elantra Ns remain front-wheel drive, and they also include the company's N corner carving electronic limited slip differential. No all-wheel drive is available on this car, and like I said before, this vehicle comes standard with a 6-speed manual transmission or an 8-speed wet dual-clutch automatic transmission. The dual clutch is what's going to give you that extra 10 horsepower boost with the overboost function. Now, fuel economy did go down this year slightly. This manual model that I'm showing you is rated at 2129. The automatic drops it to 20 in the city, 27 on the highway. That is among the worst you're going to find in the segment, so I'm not entirely sure why the fuel economy went down. It was like 20-30 in the 2023 model. This vehicle has roughly a 12.5-gallon fuel tank, so you're looking at around 280-ish miles of range on a full tank. That's not the point of course, buying a vehicle like this is for the fuel economy. You want performance, and Hyundai says with the dual clutch model, you can get to 60 in the low 5-second range. The automatic, or the manual, is going to add roughly around a half a second more, depending on how well you shift, of course. In terms of the top speed, this has a top speed of around 155 miles an hour, and as this vehicle sits, this manual model weighs in at just over 3,100 pounds. The automatic weighs in at around 3,300 pounds. But closing the hood, let's go ahead and talk about the updated exterior styling for 2024. Now, I'll be the first to admit, when this car first came out, I wasn't the biggest fan of the exterior design. I actually thought it looked a little bit too boy racer, also a little unfinished, especially with the strange front fascia on the bumper that wasn't painted. For 2024, you can see that essentially still remains. This particular model that I'm showing you is painted in this really nice shade of intense blue. It's not the signature performance blue, but it works really well on the lines of the updated Elantra, and you can see the headlights got a redesign with this kind of rectangular cube dual LED design with the LED low and high beam. You have an LED turn signal, and then you have a slightly slimmer front fascia with the new Hyundai logo, which is kind of like flat, and it's also black accented, which I think looks really nice. You have, of course, a new N badge here, which is also flat, and as you guys know, stands for Namyang, or the Nürburgring. That's where Hyundai spent a lot of time on that famous racetrack tuning the chassis of this vehicle. And then you can see that controversial front end still remains, where you have a flat black for the front bumper, although I think it looks a little bit better, a little bit less obnoxious this year. You have some functional air intake openings here. You have parking sensors, which are well integrated. There's obviously a lot of functional openings here. A vehicle like this is going to require a lot of cooling. And then down here at the lower splitter, you can see there's kind of like an orangey red line that extends along the entire lower portion of the vehicle. Overall, I do think think it is an improvement, but let me know in the comment section below if you guys like the refresh styling or the pre-refresh styling. I really think that this car would look even better if that flat black area of the bumper was painted, but I imagine some owners are probably going to do that in the aftermarket. But you can see moving around the side profile, this is a refresh, a very mild refresh. So this is, remember, part of the 7th generation Elantra introduced back in 2021. So its overall dimensions haven't changed. It's around 184 inches long. It has a 107.1 inch long wheelbase. In terms of the length and the width, this is pretty identical to the regular Elantra. The more aggressive body kit does add a little bit more flair. The wheels, I think, are another big improvement. I was never really a fan of the 18-inch wheels or the 19-inch wheels that you found on the pre-refresh model. You can see for 2024, they are now forged and they're painted in this nice flat black with a double 5-spoke design. You have big 14.2-inch rotors at the front with a N branded red painted caliper. The rears are around 12.4 inches. These brakes, I believe, are like 2 inches larger than the regular Elantra, which is obviously nice. You need the increase in performance. You have a Michelin Pilot Sport 4S tire riding on 245 by 35 ZR19. So this is obviously a summer tire. These wheels, Hyundai said, because they're forged, they're stronger and they're lighter. They're around 8¼ pounds lighter on each corner of the vehicle, saving you around 33 pounds. And you're going to notice that in day-to-day driving, especially if you're on a racetrack. So that's definitely nice. You have an independent front suspension with adaptive dampers, also an independent multi-link at the rear with the same adaptive dampers. You can see around the side profile, you have that red line that still accentuates the lower splitter or the lower side sill. And then you also have a gloss black painted mirror with integrated turn signals. No sunroof on this model because it's the manual transmission. If you guys go for the dual clutch, you'll actually get a sunroof, which is a nice touch. You have gloss black around the window trim, which I also really appreciate. And you can see the parametric design or geometric designs and intersecting lines. You can really see that in the side profile of this car. It still has a very distinctive look. At the rear, things didn't really change too much. The Elantra already had a pretty striking rear end design. You can see it's got a combination style LED taillight where the brake light and the taillight is LED, but you can see the reverse light and the turn signal is an incandescent bulb. You do get a nice bigger wing type spoiler with the Elantra N. It's got new blacked out badging here with the new flat style N badging here. It also has the new flat black Hyundai logo there. And then you can see the rear splitter is much more aggressive. And then you've got those big twin outlet chrome exhaust system. Now the Elantra N and the Veloster N that came before this became instantly known for its fantastic sounding factory exhaust. That hasn't changed. So let's go ahead and fire it up and see if you can hear what it sounds like. I have to say, even with new competitors like the redesigned Civic Type R, the GR Corolla, the WRX, the Elantra N still, to me, has the best sound in the sport compact segment. Other manufacturers could really take notice at Hyundai. Now, opening up the cargo area, you can see, push that button that opens up the trunk, and this vehicle only comes as an actual 4-door conventional sedan. I would love to see Hyundai bring a hatchback to the US, but they just won't do that because Americans don't like hatchbacks. But you can see, open up the trunk, you have these conventional hinges that crush your cargo. You have a strengthening rear strut tower brace back here. That's going to add, of course, torsional rigidity and stiffness to the chassis. And you get around 14 cubic feet of total cargo space back here, which is certainly usable. The seats, they appear like they still fold down in one piece, but obviously the trunk is, usable and it's decently sized. If I look underneath here, you can see no spare tire. Instead, you just have a fix-a-flat kit with an air compressor. So that's something to keep in mind. But overall, if you guys are looking for more space, this is where some of its competitors, which only come as a hatchback, are going to be better suited to your needs. So moving on to the interior of the 2024 Hyundai Elantra N. The exterior was a very light refresh, and the interior is also the same thing here. Before we get inside, however, let me show you guys the key fob. You can see here is the new corporate Hyundai key fob. You can see it's essentially that egg-shaped key that they first introduced on the Ioniq 6. You can see it has the N badge here to let you know that it's a high-performance model. You can also see the egg shape. When you have it on this way, you can't really notice it, but when you flip it this side, you can see it's the Hyundai logo. It has the usual buttons here for lock, unlock, panic, and then you also have your trunk release. I believe if you guys go for the dual clutch model, it may include remote start. I'll have to double check that. But regardless, it's a pretty nice key fob. There's your trunk release again over here. I think I did mention that. The company also offers their digital key, phone as a key function, which they call it now Digital Key 2, which also works with Apple devices and Android devices. Now you can see as I approach the vehicle, you can see there's a traditional pull style door handle. If I touch that, that locks the doors for you. The Elantra does not offer power folding mirrors. Touch the back of that, that's going to unlock the door for you there. Now, if you guys don't want a black interior, this is where the Elantra N may not work for you because this car only comes with a black interior. You can see you also have these N-specific sport bucket seats, which look fantastic. They hold you in place very nicely. They're covered in a combination of a leather and this ultra suede material. This N logo here also lights up, and it has the contrast performance blue stitching. This is very BMW to me, so you can clearly tell where Hyundai, you know, poached a couple of BMW designers or German designers, but regardless, it still makes a great first impression. The seats, they are manually 6-way adjustable. They are 3-level heated. But if you guys are looking for cooled seats or powered seats with memory, the Elantra N does not offer that. Now looking at the door panel, you can see things haven't really changed too much. You have still a soft or a hard touch injection molded plastic on this upper portion, ultra suede here with kind of like these nice perforations. It's slightly padded here where your elbows would rest. The window controls, I will say they have kind of a cheaper feel, but you have a one-touch up-down for the driver, only for the driver. Everything else is not a one-touch up or down, and then the rest of the controls are pretty straightforward. You also have a premium Bose stereo system if you guys prefer to listen to your music as opposed to the exhaust. And then down here you can see it's hard-touch plastic with more of that storage area in the lower door pockets. Now getting inside, you can see this is definitely a low vehicle because it's, a high performance, sporty sedan. As I get in and then shut the door has a nice solid sounding thunk. Remember, this is built off of the newer N3 architecture, which is different versus the old Kona N and the Veloster N. Now, starting the vehicle up, you can see my tester has the 6-speed manual, the standard transmission. Obviously, you have to put the clutch in. The start-stop button is right here, where you'd expect it to be, and you can see the gauge display does a nice little sweep, and then you have essentially the upgraded tech in this car is standard. So you have two 10.3-inch displays, a 10.3-inch digital display here, and then a 10.3-inch center display over here, or technically it's 10.25 inches. This pretty much hasn't changed. The steering wheel, however, does look slightly different. You still have an N-specific sport steering wheel with perforated leather. You have the nice contrasting performance blue stitching. And then you can see the new Hyundai logo here, which is now flat black. It's instead of that big shiny chrome. This looks a lot better to me. I like that. You can see you have the standard Hyundai controls, and then you have specific buttons here for the N model. So this right here controls your drive mode selector. You can go between a sport, normal, and an eco mode. It also changes the way the gauge display looks. This right here is an N-specific button that literally puts it into the N standard mode, which also gives you a tack front and center. And then if you want, you can push it again and go into an N custom mode, just like a BMW, where you can customize how you want your settings over here through the display. So that's all very, very nice. There's a lot of customization here. There's also this little button here to turn on and off the active rev matching. If you had the automatic model, this will be an NGS button for N grin shift. It's an overboost button. The manual doesn't have that, however. Instead, it just allows you to turn on the active rev matching, which is definitely a nice feature to have out on the road. You can see the rest of the dashboard material you can see is a hard touch, or I'm sorry, this is actually a slightly padded soft touch injection molded plastic. Same thing with the upper portion. I'm surprised if this is padded, why didn't they make this area padded? I would have preferred to have that and this be hard touch plastic. You can see the infotainment display. This is the same one that I showed you before under other Hyundai models. You can see this does not include wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. So if I want to connect my phone, I have to connect it via a wired connection here through a USB-A dongle. There's also a USB-C for charging. That's kind of where I wish that Hyundai would have added their new software, CNCC software, that included wireless CarPlay. Without it, obviously you have to connect your phone. I'm using my phone right now, so I won't be able to show you that. It does still include factory GPS, which is also a pretty nice touch. The GPS function in this car is nothing super special. The N mode is where you're going to basically go in to access your performance pages here. So we're here at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. It also shows you your lap times. It shows you your oil temperature, engine temperature. It shows you your throttle and how much you're putting in. You can see, even from in here, you can still hear the lovely pops and crackles from the exhaust. So love the sound of this car, which I think is just gonna sell this car to a lot of enthusiasts. You can also kind of, go access your different widgets here, such as your climate function. You can also go in and change some of your settings. and stuff. So there's a pretty good, easy, user interface in here. I just wanted to add wireless CarPlay, so I'm surprised that Hyundai didn't do that. If I put the vehicle into reverse, you can see there's your backup camera with front and rear parking sensors. It has trajectory at the rear, but no full 360 camera. Not really needed for a car like this. No heads-up display, obviously, as well. Remember, this is still a performance vehicle, but you do have, nice buttons and knobs here for your volume control, which is nice. You have dual zone temperature control. You have 3-level heated seats, although in the hot California sun today, I would have preferred to have cooled seats. No cooled seats is available. You can see down here, there's a wireless phone charging pad, which Hyundai did update the wireless charger, where it has that raised area here where it's going to more reliably charge your phone and keep it cool. Down here you can see there's also a drive mode selector here, which will again allow you to cycle between eco, normal, and sport, in addition to having it on the steering wheel. The shifter for the manual is also pretty nice. It's a nice short throw shifter. It feels really good going through the gates. Reverse is accessed by pulling up on that and then going next to first gear. The clutch also has a slightly medium springiness to it. I also love the sport pedals that you get. Love the fact that Hyundai still offers a manual as well. Down here you can see there's your traditional pull style handbrake. There's a lot of piano black plastic trim, a nice big grab handle here for the passenger to remind them to hold on. And then you can see it's slightly padded over here. Open this up, you can see the storage area there is decent. No additional power outlets in there. They're all going to be located here along with the 12 volt. These seats are very comfortable and supportive. I think that they look fantastic as well. I just want them to be cooled. I'm even okay with them having manual adjustments. And then you can see the glove compartment. It just cheaply falls. It's not damped or lined with felt, but it offers a pretty good amount of storage, which is nice. The interior in general, to me, I just think needs a little bit more color. It's just very dark in this interior. And I think some color, a lighter color seat or a red seat option would have been a nice addition. So I'm sad that Hyundai doesn't offer that. The mirror you can see is just a manual style. It's not auto dimming. Would have been nice to see that included. It might be part of as an accessory. You can see there's some map lighting in here, but it's just an incandescent bulb. I imagine some owners will change that out. If you want a sunroof, like I said, go for the dual clutch model. But overall, the interior still offers good visibility, decent build quality, just slightly cheaper materials, and most of the tech that you expect, except for wireless CarPlay and Android Auto. But let's go ahead and hop into the backseat area. I want to show you guys what that space is like. You can see, opening up the door actually opens up a pretty decent amount if you guys need to get a car seat back here. Material quality is the same hard touch plastic with the ultra suede here. It is hard touch plastic here where you'd rest your elbows, so I don't love that. And some of the plastics, I will say, look a little shiny and cheap, which I don't love. The seats, you can see they have the same kind of two-tone with the leather and the ultra suede. It actually does look like this seat does not fold down, so Hyundai did remove the fold-down seats, for that strengthening strut tower bar. And then you also have around 38 inches of legroom back here, which is a pretty good amount actually. This is going to be a couple inches more versus like a Civic Type R, and a whopping like 4 inches more than the GR Corolla. As I get in and shut the door, you can see this is where I'd have the seat to drive. There's plenty of legroom space, plenty of foot space. I can easily get back here and cross my legs, which I love. There's no rear seat air vents, but you do have 2 USB-C charging ports. No map pockets on either of the seat backs, but you can see Hyundai did completely wrap this seat in leather, which is definitely a nice upscale touch. They should have put a center armrest here. Again, no center armrest. But in terms of the headroom space, you can see for somebody my height, the roof line definitely seems a little bit lower. My hair is getting pretty close to the roof in general, but overall, if you're looking for a sport compact with a slightly bigger back seat, the Elantra N will certainly, fill that space for you. So it's been a couple years since I've been behind the wheel of the Hyundai Elantra N, and we're actually here in Monterey, California, or Carmel Valley to drive the Ioniq 5N, but because the company actually brought the refreshed Elantra N here, I figured I'd also do a full review and a full driving impression review. We're actually in the dual clutch model, which you really can't go wrong. Hyundai says that the take rate for the dual clutch is about 75%, so I figured we'll start out with this model, and it's also the model that's going to be a little bit faster versus the manual transmission model, and that's because, again, the dual clutch has the extra 2 gears. It shifts really fast, and you can also kind of engage the launch control really nicely, which to engage the launch control you have to put it into the N button here and then go to launch control, and then you can basically hit activate. And to do that, this vehicle, remember, remains front wheel drive. So it will, you can adjust the launch RPM in which it launches at. I have it set to 3,000. I believe that's the most optimal setting for it. And the last manual model that I drove did it in like 5.8 seconds, but the last dual clutch Veloster N did it in like the low 5s. So this is one of the quicker accelerating sport compacts that you can buy, despite the fact that this has front wheel drive, which is pretty darn impressive. But let's go ahead and see what we can get here. 5.7 seconds there. Now, you guys heard it had a little bit of wheel hop. Remember, this is still a front wheel drive vehicle, so it's going to be hard, tricky at times even, to launch this vehicle properly. And, it takes a little bit of, a good road surface to do it on. You kind of have to find the right, the right timing as well. The weather, I will say, is perfect. We're on these Michelin Pilot Sport 4S tires. Oh, this car is an absolute joy to drive. That's the one thing I've forgotten about the Elantra N. It's such a, fantastic sport compact car, and it's kind of a little bit forgotten. I mean, everybody knows about the Civic Type R and the Volkswagen Golf R, and then there's the GR Corolla, which, two of those models are all-wheel drive. The Elantra N is kind of a tweener vehicle. It fits in between those models with its 286 horsepower when you guys have it in its N-Grin shift mode. And I have to say, this thing still is fantastic to drive. It's built off of the newer N3 architecture. They did retune the steering and the suspension for this car for 2024. So Hyundai says they've been tweaking it, fine-tuning it, just to get it even better, handling, better, finesse even. Just put my foot down here. This dual clutch just felt a little bit of torque steer there, but it's just such a joy. There's so much balance here, and it's like there's a level of just kind of like urgency that I love about these front wheel drive sport compact cars. And then if you want to, play with the paddles, this car still has one of the best sounding exhausts that you're gonna find. I love the pops and the crackles and the bangs. You're just not even going to get that from something like the GR Corolla. The Civic Type R doesn't even have that. The Acura Integra Type S does come to mind, and that also has some nice bangs and pops, but the Acura also is significantly more expensive. We're talking like $15,000 more expensive. There's something just genuinely fantastic about this vehicle. And it really makes you wonder, why should you spend an extra $10,000 on, the Civic Type R or the Volkswagen Golf R, unless you must have all-wheel drive. That's, there are times where I wish Hyundai would put all-wheel drive on this vehicle, but it's just going to add cost. It's going to add complexity. Oh. Oh my God, this car is really a gem. I mean, Hyundai basically says that about the take rate between this and the regular Elantra is about 6%, which isn't much. I'm hoping that the changes that Hyundai has made this year will improve on that, because I think a lot of people just don't know about this car. I mean, they are still kind of getting their, footing into the door for high-performance vehicles. Yes, they've been around for a few years now, but, enthusiasts still, they have their, preconceived notions of Hyundai vehicles, and this car, along with the original vehicle, the Veloster N, is going to kind of just throw those preconceived notions out the window. The other great thing about, going with the automatic transmission, the dual clutch, it has this little button here called NGS. That stands for N-Grin Shift. And what that is basically is an overboost function. That overboost function allows for an extra 10 horsepower for up to 10 seconds. So that's going to give you, the best acceleration. And let's go ahead and see if we can do another 0 to 60 time and see if we can get an improved time. All right, we just got 5.2 seconds there, so that's a slightly much better time. There was still a little bit of wheel hop, you guys heard, but that's kind of the nature of front wheel drive. This car does have an electronic limited slip differential. Hyundai calls it their N corner carving differential. And you can feel it putting down the power, but again, this is where something like the GR Corolla, the Golf R, is going to have you a little bit better there because of its all-wheel drive system and the ability to kind of overdrive the rear wheels at times as well. This thing is just such an absolute bonkers joy. I've forgotten just how good this car is. The other thing I also love are the seats. The seats in this vehicle hold you in place really nicely. These are the N-specific sport bucket seats. They are completely manual, and I will notice at times if you are a wider frame, you're not going to fit in them quite nicely. I'm, an average size adult and I fit into them just fine. They are a little bit on the harder side. The seats are also 3-level heated, but not ventilated. You can get, I believe, ventilated seats on other versions of the Elantra, but the N, of course, it doesn't have that feature along with the missing of the power. I also like the way the steering wheel feels. It just has a nice, meaty grip to it. I like the thick, rim to it. It doesn't have a flat bottom design, but the car's steering in general is just so quick, direct, and snappy. The suspension also stays nice and flat as well, and that's kind of, the whole point of, going for the N model. This is going to be the, the pinnacle of handling, and because of, Albert Biermann coming to Hyundai's N division, this car's handling dynamics are among the best that you're going to find in the segment. Now, I will say that the ride quality in N mode is pretty harsh. This is where you're going to notice everything about this car is very, very firm. So you kind of have to, reprogram your brain because you bought a car like this. You're not going to be driving it in, its super, comfortable setting. However, if you switch the drive mode here, I'll switch it into its normal mode. We'll go into normal. Remember, this car does come with adaptive dampers, so when you switch it into this mode, you can really feel the difference in the ride quality. The suspension dampers get a little bit softer. The steering also gets a little bit lighter. The eagerness kind of is tailored back a little bit, which is good if you guys are looking to just daily drive this car. It's still very daily drivable, and I have to drive the old model back to back to notice the differences. I mean, they said they retuned the steering and the suspension, but to me it just feels every bit like a serious hot hatch, even though it's not a hatch, it's a sport compact. But it feels like a very serious performance machine. And then whenever you just want to look to pass somebody quickly, you can even be in comfort mode and such, and you can just hit the NGS button, and that's going to, again, put everything into its maximum attack mode for 20 seconds. And you can basically, reactivate it every 20 seconds again, push it again. You can see here it goes into the N grid shift mode. And everything is just super loud, super visceral. Now, in terms of the fuel economy, Hyundai did say that they dropped the MPG a little bit for 2024. This model that we're driving was rated at 20 in the city, 27 on the highway. Those are not fantastic numbers. It actually dropped by 3 MPG on the highway compared to the previous generation or the previous year. The combined rating, however, is still the same at 23. You're looking at around 280 miles of range on a full tank. It's not great. It's got a small 12.5-gallon fuel tank. You didn't buy this again for the best fuel economy or maximum range, so that part you're just going to have to get over, because that's not why you buy it. You bought an Elantra N, but overall, if you guys are looking for a sport compact vehicle like this, and you don't want, the Civic Type R, which is a lot more money, you don't want the GR Corolla, it's too small. The Volkswagen Golf R is nicely balanced, but it can be a little bit staid or just austere and just boring at times, and it's also significantly more expensive. The Elantra N, as long as you guys don't need the all-wheel drive grip, is definitely still one of the best performance bargains out there in this segment. So with around 134,000 Hyundai Elantras sold in America in 2023, Hyundai actually saw a pretty nice sales increase for this vehicle, or at least not this particular model, in America. So it's clear that obviously Americans still look for compact sedans. In terms of the sales mix for the Elantra N versus the rest of the Elantra family, Hyundai says the take rate is right around 6%, which I know isn't a lot, but still, for those of you who are looking for a vehicle like this after spending the day driving the Elantra N, I have to say this model surprised me, because when I first had a chance to drive this about 2 years ago, I was in love with the car, but since then I've had a chance to drive the Civic Type R, the GR Corolla, the updated Subaru WRX, the Acura Integra, which I'd argue the Integra is technically supposed to be a class above this. There is still plenty to like about the Elantra N. As you guys saw, the 0 to 60 performance with the dual clutch is really the model to get. You'll easily get a low 5-second 0 to 60 mark as long as you can get that power down to the ground. This is still only a front-wheel drive vehicle. The noises this thing makes are just sublime. I still don't understand why the other manufacturers haven't tried to, copy what Hyundai has done with the exhaust system. I think that whole visceral experience reminds you why I still love internal combustion vehicles. The handling dynamics of the Elantra N is also still fantastic. I had a chance to take this vehicle out on an autocross. That's kind of where it shines the most because of the lightweight chassis, the ability for it to put the power down. I found the manual to be slightly better and faster for me personally on an autocross course, but of course that's going to vary based on your skill skill level. The practicality of the interior is still there. The backseat is among the more roomier. The tech in this car is also nice, although I wish that Hyundai would have added their new software system to include wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. And I think the design of the vehicle is also much improved. I mean, there is definitely still vehicles that I think look better, but there's also an enticing value here with the Elantra N, and that continues for 2024, because if you want to get your hands on this vehicle, they are heading to Hyundai dealerships right now as we speak, and pricing for this model is about $1,000 more versus 2023. Pricing for the manual transmission starts at $33,700. That's plus a $1,150 destination charge. If you guys want the dual clutch, it'll cost you $1,500 extra. And it also will give you a power sunroof. That's the only way you can get a sunroof on this vehicle, is by going with the dual clutch model. You really can't go wrong between the two vehicles. I had a chance to drive them back to back, and for me on the street, I preferred, on my favorite back roads, a manual transmission. On the autocross course, I preferred a manual transmission, but if you plan to track the car, I probably would recommend going with the automatic, and if you plan to drive it in mostly around town driving in traffic, then I definitely recommend the dual clutch. Again, the fact that Hyundai offers either a manual or a dual clutch automatic is really, catering to a lot of enthusiasts, because the company says that while they do offer both transmissions, the take rate is around 25% manual, 75% dual clutch. So again, it's a pretty high take rate for a manual, but it's still showing that even enthusiasts out there are just kind of getting tired of driving stick shift, and you can't beat the lightning fast shifts and the convenience of a dual clutch transmission. So with all that said, hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on this brand new 2024 Hyundai Elantra N. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at Redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.